If you've done the wheel strategy in the past and you've panicked, or maybe you bailed out and you say, wheel strategy does not work, and you think that it's a trap, well, I want to share with you some insights regarding the wheel strategy and what can kind of flip your mindset on it, as well as some of the things to think about in order to make the wheel strategy a little bit more successful. So why is it that some people that do the wheel strategy, it just doesn't work for them? And other people, when they do it, they love the wheel strategy. It works so fantastic and well. And I think to understand this concept, we really have to go a little bit deeper into our own personal mindset, the way we look and operate and do trades, and just our own mental discipline into handling the operation. Now, if you're brand new here, I'm Sasha, the options coach, and I've been teaching people to trade options for quite a while now. And the thing we're going to talk about today regarding the wheel strategy comes from our class. We've done the reverse wheel, actually, so where we talk about standard wheel and even the reverse wheel. But really, it comes from this wheel strategy profits class that I have. So you can check out our website. We've got a lot of other classes in here for trading and trading options. And one of the big things regarding the wheel strategy that I want to share with you is that, what happens with a lot of people is they quit that wheel strategy right before it actually works. And it's kind of natural, and it happens a lot whether you're doing a business and you're building something up. A lot of people, they work, build something up, and then it's starting to grow, or you might not see the growth, but it's kind of underneath the surface. And right before that actual growth, where you're happy with the growth, kicks in those cases, a lot of people quit. So, and this happens very much so with the wheel strategy as well. So it's kind of like, in most cases, when stocks are moving up, like if you look at this graphic, when stocks are moving up and trending, the wheel strategy is fantastic. But the issue is that once you start to get a little bit of traction against you, or a little bit of speed bumps, and it starts moving down, a lot of traders quit. And that is because the wheel strategy, it has a little bit of a different discipline mentality. For somebody that's putting on an options trade on a consistent basis, let's say you're putting it on every 2 weeks, you're putting and selling a call, or you're selling a put every couple of weeks. Well, you have to be consistent on one hand, but now what you're doing is you're short-term trading or shorter-term trading, whereas the wheel strategy, in order for it to profit, you might actually need to be in the trade for 6 months or a year, simply because you got to give the stock room and time to digest. You might need a time to come back. You might need time to pay off the premium. And this is one of the bigger issues and problems. So I'm going to go through a couple of ideas here to test your mental strength. Again, a lot of these things come from the class, so you can check out our classes on that website and give you some more insight. But the thing is that most people, they love the wheel strategy in those bull markets, and then they panic the second that stock drops. So all goes good on paper, because when you see those things on paper, and you say, oh yeah, mathematically this makes sense, you're in your logical brain, and logically it all makes sense. However, when that panic happens and you start seeing, oh my God, the stock's selling off, and now your call option, you don't lose the stock, it doesn't get called away. Also, the stock starts selling off quite a bit, and now the calls that you can sell are way cheaper. Now all of a sudden you start freaking out. You say, well, maybe I should take a different stock or cut my losses early. And, it's not the strategy failing here. It's really you're failing the strategy because you're getting out of it a lot early. Maybe you're just in it for a couple of weeks right now and it's been working, but then it starts to roll over. Well, in those cases, it may take time where you have to sit in the stock for a couple of months in order to get out of it. That's just the nature of the strategy. You have to be somewhat of a longer term holder. It requires you to actually be okay with owning the shares. And, so if you sell puts, like if you're a put seller and you keep selling puts, well, if you're selling puts, you have to be comfortable with owning the shares. A lot of people will sell puts, but they don't want to own the shares. So now it goes against them that puts goes in the money, and then they bail out of it. And then 3 days later, the stock pops and they would have been just fine. So again, you got to be comfortable with owning the shares. But if you pick garbage companies just for the premium, you're going to set yourself up for a panic, because a lot of those companies, they have higher volatility. And if they have higher volatility, well, the premium looks good, but the stock itself, or just the way the company wiggles, the price is not that great. So it's something to really consider. Now, the next thing is getting assigned. It kind of feels like losing, especially if you go in with puts, and then you get assigned. You're like, oh man, my put didn't just expire worthless. I felt like I lost. So you're seeing those things constantly creep into the back of your mind, that you feel like a loser. And it also happens with not just with the put side, but it also happens on the call side. So let's say you bought the stock at over here $90, and then you're looking to sell it at $100. Well, if this is the movement that you get, but the stock ends up at 105, you also feel like a loser. It's like, oh man, I could have held it for till 105. And that could have been a lot better. So you could have said, oh man, I should have went and held it longer. I shouldn't have sold the call. So there's different techniques though to handle this. So for example, bought it at 90, selling it at 100. Could have worked fine. But if you're concerned about this and you feel like a loser, well, just add an extra 20 shares in your back pocket. That way, if it continues to go up, these extra 20 shares can still continue to profit for you, and it helps alleviate that mental pressure. So, it's just the way the brain behaves when we go into selling covered calls. The other thing with selling covered calls is that after assignment, it feels wrong when the stock is down. So if you sold a put and now the stock is down and you're selling a call, people think, hey, well, it's not a good time. Your stock is down. You don't want to lose the stock early. But this is where people get into massive trouble, again, mentally. So I want to show you a little trick and concept behind this. Let's say you go in and you buy that stock at 90, okay? And then you're selling that call right here at 100, okay? Now the stock gets down to 80, okay? Then it gets down to 70, then it gets down to 60. And the problem is when the stock is trending so far down, when you're at 60, you might only be able to sell a call at around 70 or 75. So here's your call. And people are like, I don't want to do that because I bought the stock at 100. So you don't sell the call. You don't sell the call when the actual premium is still there, collecting premium and income. They're worried about where they initially bought the stock, right? You might be thinking about that. And what happens is they actually reduce their income potential. You might say, well, what's the issue with that? Because I don't want to lose the stock early. Well, here's the problem. Because when you go from 60 to 100, you have to think about this in terms of points to make up. Okay, so you have to make up 40 points in the move. Okay, now a lot of people don't even sell the call. In this case, let's say they could make $50, $50, $50 week after week, waiting for that stock to get to 100. But they're constantly focused on, I don't want to lose the stock at 100, even though they might be able to sell that call at 70. Well, if you sell the call at 70, you're going to be able to start collecting more of this premium, 50 bucks, 50 bucks, 50 bucks, and so on. But you're going to say, well, what if I lose the stock at 75? Stay with me here for a second. Well, if you lose the stock at 75, well, you just made up 10 points. So here's the points we made up. So we made up 10 points, okay? Now, I have to buy that stock at, let's say, 75. So now I'm buying it at 75 and I keep selling the calls. Maybe I sell it at 90 or something like that, or 80, but I keep going in and I go to, let's say at 90. Okay, well now I make up the next round, okay? I make up another 15 points. Okay, but in the meantime, you might have made that in 3 or 4 cycles. Okay, so you keep making money time and time again, selling for premium. But now you have to buy the stock at 95. Okay, well, the problem is now if it goes from 95 to 100, you might only be able to make up another 5 points. Okay, well, here's the issue. People say, well, now I'm at 100 and I could have just held the stock. It's true, but you don't know where it would have kept going. And you might have also accumulated a lot of this premium here to pay off that stock position. Maybe you could have already paid it off. Maybe you'd actually be able to get out at 95 because you just made the extra premium. But what you do now is now you buy the stock again and then you try to get to your 100. Now, the issue is you have this thing called the slippage zone or area. So these little zones where you sold it at 75, but you had to buy the stock at maybe like 80. Well, you lost about 5 points here. So you might actually need to get that stock back to about 110, maybe about 115 or something like that. But it's not going to be that far because depending on how much it moves sideways, you might have actually been able to pay it off through all that premium that you sold. So that's the big thing about these, is that mentally people don't understand how the math works behind it or the strategy, because their emotions kind of creep in into the zone and area. So that's the point, is that it works fine on paper, but falls apart when those emotions take over at each of these transition points. And that's why, when the stock is down, people stop doing it right, even though when it helps the most. So all of these two things actually work together. Okay, another thing here is that most traders pick the wrong stock for the wheel. They're looking for, higher premium usually, which usually gives you higher risk. And that's really a trap hiding in plain sight, because it's kind of like the dividend stocks where you get high dividends, and the higher the dividend, usually this company is crappier. A really good company that has growth in it, they usually don't pay a dividend because they know the stock price is going to pay more than enough. But more stable companies or companies that are, let's say, more defensive, they are going to pay more of a dividend. Or stocks that maybe are not as high quality or high growth also pay a dividend. So anyway, the point is that if the stock price is not making up for the revenue, they will pay a dividend, and the higher the dividend, then the more risky it kind of is in general, or less growth it is. It's not always the case, but in many cases it is. And that's the same thing here is when you get higher premium, it can be quite a trap as well with the options because there's risk embedded. So that is why there is a higher premium. All right, the other thing with the wheel strategy here is that the strategy itself demands patience measured in months, not days, even though, or weeks even for that matter. And that's why people that when they go out and sell call options or put options, if they get assigned or they lose the stock or the stock goes against them and they don't keep doing it, they stop doing it, then then they kind of lose out. They lose at the worst time, and they're not helping their position. So they're wired for quicker trades, especially if you're doing with options. You're like, oh, okay, I want this thing to decay, I want it to end, and then go in and sell your next one. And that's the same thing here, is that you get wired and trained on the process to rotate it quickly, but the strategy itself in total requires longer term discipline. So it makes it more difficult. And they quit kind of at those ugly parts of the cycle and never stick around long enough to see it work itself out, because it may take sometimes 3 months, 6 months, 14 months, 18 months for it to work out. Just like I mentioned here with the stock position, in those cases, if you keep doing it over and over again, with time, you will pay it off. It just takes a bit longer. And you're going to have different stocks and positions. Like let's say we have, I'm going to show you this one over here. So if we have different stocks, and we have stock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down here we have time, where we have these could be like months. Okay, well, certain stocks, if they're going down, assuming they're going down, you are going to pay off and get out within a couple months. Others, boom, some are very quick. Okay, some are going to take a lot longer. So what your goal and objective is to have multiple of these cycles moving and rotating, because certain stocks that, let's say this one ends quickly, well, you could keep repeating it and keep doing that wheel strategy with it, or even hopping to a new stock and saying, oh, okay, I want to do the wheel strategy there, but you might get stuck in that one a little longer. So it's good to have those variations in the portfolio, so that way capital is rotating and moving from one spot to another, and you're just peeling things off with time. Anyways, hope that helps, gives you a little insight here on some of the panic zones and modes. If you're interested in some of the classes that we've got, check out our website there. That link's going to be in the description, or go to our website, because we've got a ton of different classes and material that you could take a look at. So thanks for joining me. Truly appreciate it. Hope you learned quite a lot, and maybe I'll see you in a future live class. Take care. Bye-bye.